in Yaakov 58a, and it says, "V'amar Rav Hamnuna." So Rav Hamnuna said, "Haroa uchluse Israel omer." If one sees a multitude of Jews, and this is at least 600,000 people. And then we start to talk about this. It says, Baruch. We talked about this. Oh, we did this.
Because 600,000 is like the amount of ideas that people have.
No, it was because that's how many people were at Sinai. That's really where it's coming from.
I remember the part.
Okay, we're also going to talk about ideas too. Fine, each one. Yeah. Okay, so we did that. That's interesting. So okay, we'll start there again. I don't know why. I don't remember the rest of it. So let's go. So it says again, if you see a multitude of 600,000 people, so then you say, Baruch Chacham Harazim, blessed are the sage, blessed are you, the sage of secrets. Ochlosi Ovdei Kuchavim Omer Busho Imchem. And again, if you see a multitude of idolaters, then you say your mother is embarrassed. So and that comes from Jeremiah. Our school explains the one who sees the secret thought of every person in the crowd. That's Rashi. There are 600,000 types of intellectual aptitude that you see you're just talking about. So thus a crowd of 600,000 presumably includes among its ranks every form of human intellect. For this reason, the Torah was given to Sinai to 600,000 people. To be exact, by the way, 603,550 men over the age from the ages of 20 to 16, which means you have approximately 2 million people there. So it would be accepted, so that it would be accepted and understood in every possible way. Despite the vast range of minds and personalities in such a crowd, God knows the secret thoughts of each person present, which is, again, one of the scary things you have to imagine here. If God is knowing what we're thinking, and God does know what we're thinking, otherwise there's not just reward or just punishment. What it means is that Hashem knows when we're connected and when we're not connected. What does that mean? In other words, I was just discussing this with the rabbi. It was Rabbi Goodnicki this morning. That in the frum world, well, I think this goes generally for all worlds, but I'll pick on the frum world for this. If you look like us and you act like us, in other words, if you put film on, if you put a kippah on, and if you wear tzitzis, if you're a male, or a head cover or a wig when you're married as a female, and you light Shabbos candles, and you keep Pesach and so on and so forth, we count you as an Orthodox Jew, and we no longer try to get involved in your life. We don't do anything. On the other hand, if we see that you're not wearing a kippah, you're not going to, you're not doing all these things, then you haven't bought into it. So we feel obligated to go out and try to get you engaged. Thus you have kiruv. Okay, that's really the world of kiruv. The bottom line is that when I have a person, if a person is engaged in my world, coming to class, doing this, doing that, but really is just on autopilot, or really doesn't buy it, but wants to, figures, it's easier to do this world and to assimilate into that world and become one of them, even if I don't adopt their real beliefs. I don't adopt them, but I'll do it because it's just simpler. Resistance is futile. Why should I bother? By the way, that's why if a religious person would go into a reform or conservative synagogue, they will ultimately be very comfortable doing whatever people are doing. They will not fight the crowd. They may make a little stink with the rabbi once in a blue moon.
Visiting that one time, or he goes every week?
No, I'm saying he goes every week. I know when I was living in Stoughton, it was only one shul in town. You only had the conservative shul. Why are conservative shuls? Why are they the only shul in town normally in small town America? Because it's seen as a middle road. That's all. Reform is too far to one side. Orthodox is too far to the other side. So now what you have is conservative, and that was supposed to be the melting pot for the Jewish people. Okay, fine. What happens is you have some reform people who will come to the conservative shul, and they'll have to raise their game a little bit if they want to be part of the reindeer games. And so they'll have to come to shul a little more often. Their kids will go to Hebrew school. They'll hear Jewish philosophy to some extent, not too much, but they'll hear it, and they'll be wearing a kippah when they walk in. That's a big hallmark for conservative versus reform, where they don't wear a kippah walking in. So, and that hasn't changed as far as I know. And then, so that's one thing. So they'll move up a little bit. Then you'll, if you will, move it up as an observance. And then you'll have the Orthodox guy, again, Orthodox by name only, who will go to that same shul and ultimately will say, okay, so look, I don't want women counting the minyan. And that was the old days where women were not counting the minyan. But I'll have mixed eating. I can do mixed eating. Okay, it's not such a big deal, blah, blah, blah. And okay, so the rabbi's using a microphone. Okay, not such a big deal. And they find their comfort zone and they can do it, right? So it goes both ways. All because there's no philosophy behind that. All because people don't really know what Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform stand for. They don't know the basic philosophy. Unless you're religious and you've studied it, both things, then you really don't know what it is. So I can have somebody that is, and I've talked about this before, orthopraxic, in other words, following halacha, but they're really not Orthodox in thought. So now, when they go someplace else, they can go the other way, or they can just leave altogether, and there's no harm, no foul in their mind. My point is that when we see them doing those things, we suddenly feel we have to bring them back into the fold, but they were never in the fold to begin with. That's the big thing. If they're never in the fold to begin with, they were just doing things because everybody else was doing things. So they're never there. So it's not like you lost anybody. You just never had them to begin with. But because you didn't pay attention to it, because they were doing something, in other words, they were acting like you, so you never thought twice. So that was the problem. That's what here, when you're saying that God knows what we're thinking, that's why for that sort of a person, it becomes very, well, for everybody, it should be very scary, because now when I'm doing something, God knows why I'm doing it. Even if I don't know why I'm doing it, by the way. I think I'm doing it for the right reason. But God knows my real reasons. The ones I have to discover. And that's what's going on here. So despite the vast range of minds and personalities in such a crowd, God knows the secret thoughts. Hence, upon seeing a crowd of this number, it's appropriate to praise God's infinite awareness. You're not praising the people for being there. You're praising God for knowing the secrets. Okay? An alternative explanation, although the members of such an immense crowd presumably possess between them every type of intellectual ability and achievement, they are not privy to the areas of knowledge beyond human grasp. Therefore, one who sees a crowd of this number should say, the sage of secrets, to whom this secret knowledge exclusively belongs. So only Hashem really knows what's happening. We can theorize why the Holocaust happened, why the Chelyabinsk massacres happened, why Cain killed Hevel. You can think about all those things. But we'll never really know. This only for God to know. Okay? Then it says, Tanarabanan, Haroa Ochlose Yisrael Omer, again, one who sees the multitude of Jews, is another brighter. It says, Baruch Chacham Harazim She'en Datam Domel Zelazeh. So here it says that you say, praise are you, the sage of secrets, for their minds are not similar to each other. Ve'en Portzofeihen Domel Zelazeh, and their faces are not similar to one another, and yet Hashem knows the secret thoughts of everybody. And the brighter adds is that each face is different because a person's mind is reflected in his face. Ben Zoma Ra'a Ochlusa. So Ben Zoma saw a multitude of Jews while he was standing al Gav Ma'aleb Harabai, while he was standing on the step of the Temple Mount. From this high vantage point, he could see vast crowds of people ascending to Yerushalayim for a pilgrimage festival. What does he say? Amar, he said, Baruch Chacham Harazim, blessed is the one who blessed are you, the sage of secrets, Baksha Barak Hol Elu L'Sham Sheni. And we did this too. He also said, this blessing praise to you who created all of these to serve me. And that was meaning, he says here, that I learned Torah in there. I'll cut it short because I know I did this before. That everybody is basically serving me. Because they're the ones who are making bread and so on and so forth. So from them I eat even though I'm not working. Let's go on. Huaya Omer, he says, how many exertions did the first man make until he found bread to eat? You ever think about that?
I mean, how many times did you have to till the land?
No, what?
What does exertion mean?
Work.
Okay.
How many works, how many efforts did he make until he had the first bread? So charash v'zara v'katzar. He first had a plow, then he sowed the seeds, then he reaped. V'ima v'dash. Then he gathered the stalks together. He threshed the stalks. V'zara ubeirer. He then winnowed the chaff from the grain. He selected the other waste from the grain. V'tacham v'hirkit. He ground the grain into flour and sifted. He ground the grain into flour and sifted the flour. Vlash, and then he kneaded it. V'afan, and he baked it. V'achakach achal. And afterwards he ate the bread. V'ani mashkin, but I, Ben Zoma, rise early in the morning. Call Elim and Tukanim Lefonai, and I find all these labors already prepared before me. In other words, everybody already did it for me. Here I am learning Torah. I don't have to do what Adam Harishon did. Yes.
Well, finding the seeds, getting the seeds.
Say it again, please.
Getting the seeds to put them in the ground.
Sowing is putting the seeds in the ground.
No, but getting the seeds themselves. How do you get that?
Oh.
That's another labor.
Which came first?
What came first?
The plant or the seed?
The plant.
Yeah, the plant.
The plant came first because everything was created full blown.
But you'd have to get it off the plant. To the seeds.
Okay.
So he discovered these little
Right,
seeds.
so he saw seeds.
Or maybe the seeds dropped back in the ground and he saw that.
Well, he had to sow it. The question is, by the way, you're asking. Go ahead, ask your question.
I thought Noah made the first plow.
Oh, there you go.
What was it?
Wait,
Noah made the first plow, but it doesn't mean that's the first plowing of the land. He made a tool to plow.
Right.
You still know how to dig.
Right. They could farm before then, but he made it easier.
Right. Okay. So what you really should be asking is, wait a second.
I didn't know how to make bread.
Yeah, that's one thing. But how do you know how to plant? You're created. Everything is in front of you right now. It's ready made.
Yeah.
Ready made, right in
Stuff
front
is
of
growing.
us.
Stuff is
Everything
growing.
is growing. So how do I know that I have to, 1, plow ground, 2, put a seed in the ground, number 3, and then it's going to grow? How fast does it grow? And then I know I have to reap it. How does he know all this? So that is the innate knowledge that Hashem gives him. So he knows the recipe apparently. But, and if he would have followed, if he would have followed the Torah, then he never would have had to bother with it.
Ah.
Right? If he would have followed what Hashem's command was, everything would have been there for him. But because he broke the law by eating from the fruit of the tree, so Hashem now says to him, okay, guess what? You're on your own. Now you have to start doing it. And here's the directions. Yeah.
I was just wondering if that knowledge was innate after the curse or before the curse.
It probably was before the curse, but it wasn't necessarily put into action until after the curse. And I would say that based upon what we do. We bring you guys up and we say, this is how you should do things. We'll show you, whatever the case is going to be. And then what happens is you go out on your own. So you already knew the knowledge. The best example is how to do a laundry. Most people, when they're home, do not do a laundry because either the mother or the father does the laundry in the house, or they have the maid do it, whatever the case is going to be. Okay, normally the kids do not do the laundry. Then the kids go off to college or to high school, like in Skokie, whatever the case is going to be. Suddenly they're confronted with this thing called a washing machine and a thing called a dryer. And the craziest thing is soap. How much soap do you put in? Anybody who's ever watched anything like any comedy like Brady Bunch, I think Brady Bunch did it, where the guy just kept throwing soap in. And ultimately all the soap comes all over the place because he didn't know how much soap should be in there. But think about that, how you don't know it until you have to do it. That's why Baruch Hashem, we have telephones. You call your mother, whoever does the laundry, and you say, "How do I do laundry?" And what do you mean? It costs money to do laundry?
Yeah.
I don't just throw the clothes away and I get new clothes. How's that work? But really, that's what it is. So really, you have the knowledge. You've been taught the knowledge. Or you've seen it happen. But you didn't know how those clothes that you took the clothes out of your drawer, you wore them, you threw them into a hamper, and then suddenly the hamper fills up. Suddenly the hamper is empty, and the clothes are back in the drawer. That's a miracle. Mom, it's a miracle. You went to school and it was back. It's like there was a cute thing on the on Facebook where the guy said, "There's this table. It has the wife is complaining. I don't want to wash the dishes anymore. I don't want to do this." And he says, "No, don't do that. Why don't you do what I do?" He said, "I just leave it on that table. When I leave it on the table, the next thing I know, it's gone and it's back in the thing. It's back in where it belongs." And she's saying, "You're kidding me, right?" She says, "No, I do it." And we get all the guys saying, "No, it's true. You put it on that table." Because they didn't realize their wife is, But that's what happens. We don't really appreciate it. So that's what I'm saying. I'm guessing God told them, again, with models and everything, it is how it grows and so on and so forth. But now that you didn't listen to me and you want to do it on your own, so guess what? You have to do everything on your own. Good luck. You have the knowledge to do it.
So was it like a split second teaching, or like when they're?
I'm not sure. That I'm not sure.
That's the argument of 7 days or no. That too. But it's like if that's the case, then the first humans were created with instincts, where today we have to teach our children what to do.
No, I noticed they were probably taught. Again, you're at a high level of spirituality at that point. So God can impart a lot of stuff to you very quickly. And you're seeing things. So it wasn't instantaneous. Again, was it nature, nurture? I don't know at that point. Today it's more nurture than nature, clearly. Because again, I have to know what I'm doing. But there are those people who naturally know how to do things better than others. Correct? They have the propensity to do that. So if I have the propensity to do something, so I'm going to say that my talent is a natural talent, but I have to have some professional instruction. So the same thing would be here, I'm guessing. That he knew, God is telling him this is how you would do it. The truth is we have the same thing today. Where do you get food from? The store. You go to the store, you buy food. What happens when it's not the food? How many people have gone in the 70s? In the 70s, people started not in the cities, but in the suburbs. So they started to make their own gardens. Now you guys can't appreciate that because you have the garden, but we used to make gardens. So you had to get a pitchfork. You had to turn over. Yeah, that's right, pitchfork. You had to turn over the grass because everything was grass. It was like here, grass. Okay, and then what you wanted to do is you wanted to plant because you wanted some corn or some pumpkins or whatever people were planting, tomatoes.
Yeah.
And then remember these days, okay? Because what was going on, food prices were going up. And then there was all these things with pesticides, all this mishigas was going on, and people were saying, "Oh no, we have to live off the land," blah blah blah. Okay, fine. So what happens is most people do not appreciate what goes into planting, and all the problems of planting, and why pesticides became so important to us. Okay, just people don't get it. So what happened is, you start turning over the land. Now, if you're using a pitchfork. Well, you can. Sure you can. It is hard and it takes a long time. And by the time you get a 4x4 plot, you're tired. As compared to you get a rotor, whatever they call that. That just a tiller.
Yeah.
That does it in 5 minutes and you're done. Okay. Yeah.
A pitchfork is a fork that you
Yes.
use to hay.
I know what a pitchfork is.
They have
Think about digging ground. You're talking about
people have spades and stuff.
a spade or a shovel.
No. You also have a pitchfork that I used it. So tell me, you look at it.
I mean, for poking holes to make it easier to dig or something.
Yeah, so you put it in,
break the
then
ground up.
Yeah, and then you turn it over.
Yeah.
You don't need to use you don't need to use a spade. You use a pitchfork and you flip it. Again.
They're bigger tools. It's like.
Well, you can. There's maybe different types. Okay. This one was about this big, if I remember correctly. It was a pitchfork. We called it a pitchfork, and that's it. You want to say that's something?
How many prongs did they have on it?
It had
several.
4 or 5.
Okay, and they're probably what, about this far apart? Yeah, I mean, it's breaking up the ground.
Yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't. You wouldn't do hay with that one.
Okay.
Okay, so it's probably a different one to hay. Okay,
We're thinking of the hay.
Right. You're thinking of hay. I'm not talking about hay. So this is what you would do. You just do it. Now, like I said, then once you've dug it up, now you have to smooth it out. You have to get all rid of the grass.
Break the clumps up.
You have to break the clumps up. And then what you have to do is you have to, if you really want to be fancy about it, you make the mounds. So why do you make the mounds, by the way? I don't want to get to the whole thing here. It's on the internet. But why do you make the mounds? Because you want the water to be able to run to certain places. So you want a little higher, blah, blah, blah. Okay? This is my brother. My brother was really good at this stuff. And then you have to plant every 6 inches or whatever it says on the burpee. Remember burpee?
Yeah.
Remember burpee seeds. It would give you the name. I think it was burpees.
Yeah.
Burpee seeds.
They still make those. Yeah.
So, okay, then what happens is it tells you every 6 to 8 inches. So you're measuring out 6 to 8 inches, whatever, you're guessing. And you stick your finger in. Then you have to water it. And you have to fertilize the thing. And then you pray to God that you didn't waste your time. Okay? And some people buy the ready-made tomato plants. Fine. Yeah. You put that in. And then you have to know what happens. Can I put in... now I made my ridges. So can I forget Jewish law for a second. Jewish law would say no to this. But what happens if I put a tomato plant here, this plant, a cucumber here, so on to here? Do I have to put 2 in a row? In other words, 2 hills? Do I have to have that? Do they need each other? Are they social plants, if you will? Or can I mix and match? And all these things. So it's a talent to know what I have to plant and how I have to plant these things. And how deep I have to put the seed.
Yeah.
So talent. Okay? And then what it has to do is, again, you're watering, and then what do? You sit there. And you might as well watch the grass grow, because you're not going to see anything for a couple of weeks. Okay? 2 weeks it takes to do something. And then finally it's coming up, now you have to weed. You have to know by the way, you have to know what's the weed and what's the plant. Okay? You have to keep that. You have to keep the animals out.
Yeah.
And what happens is, green beans, the bugs love to attack that. And the moles or the other what's on the ground love to eat the thing, and they got the roots. Yeah. And it destroys all things. Like I said, there's reason we need pesticides in this world. There's reasons that they came up with these things. These farms are going nuts. What do I do? So imagine all that. We have to learn, and we have to work hard to do it. Again, it's not. And even though, by the way, those who have the rototillers, you call it rototillers, if they're doing a little 4x4, it's nothing. But when you're doing an entire farm, you're out there killing yourself.
Yeah.
You're in the hot sun, and you're doing. Hopefully, it's hot sun. You don't want to do it in the rain, because
before mechanization, you had the animal pulling.
Right. So it's a whole thing that you're doing. I mean, it's an amazing thing when you think about it. And that's why Ben Zoma is saying he had to do all that. And what do? I go to the store. They bring it to me.
Yeah.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and he continues, V'kama yigiyod yaga Adam Harishon. How many types of labor did Adam Harishon make? Ad shematze geder lebosh, until he found a garment to wear. Gazaz v'libim v'nifetz. He shared the wool, he cleaned the wool, he disentangled the wool. V'tava v'arag, he spun the wool into threads. He wove the threads. Then finally he had a garment to wear. Vani and I wake up in the morning, and I find all these labors prepared for me by these people. Yes, again the same system they found. Yeah.
Hashem give him a coat or some sort of cloak or
the clothes. He gave the first step, but then he has to make his own.
Right. The first step was like.
But he's saying after that, how else did he make? When did he make? How many did he have to make to find a garment to wear? And so, how many labors did he have to undergo to do this? The first set of garments was given to him by God, no question. But then after that, you have to change your clothes. It's not nice to wear the same clothes every day. Okay. And especially if you think about people today, I don't think certainly girls wear a different dress every hour. So it's, it's just a joke. But they wear different clothes every day. I mean, the whole outfit is different. And by the way, if you give them a chance, they will change 3 times a day. If you give them a chance. They're real, I don't know about your sister, but I've seen that if they don't like it, they change again. The whole house can be closed. Guys can have one closet and not even fill the closet. Guys, I don't care. How many suits do you have?
1 suit.
Okay. Mr. Ornstein's closet for himself would probably be this much clothes. Am I correct? This much? A little more?
We have 3 bedrooms in our
house. No, this for you.
3 closets. My wife has 2.5 of the closets.
There you go. That's what I said. Okay. Guys are like this. Boom. Maybe this. Maybe this much. Maybe even this much. I don't think where any guy has more clothes than this. Is for his entire life. Okay. I don't think anybody. The shoes. How many shoes do guys have? 2, 3 pair. You have boots. You have this. You have sneakers, and you have regular shoes. You may have one more because you're. Boom. A woman has, like you said, how many closets you have in the house will be taken up. How many shoes does a woman have? And I'm not making fun of this, but it's the most amazing thing. Most women, I'm not saying every woman fits this pattern, but women, they have shoes for every outfit. Different color shoes.
Yes. Different styles.
Yeah. They can have 100 pair of shoes. And what did you do? Well, why do you need that many? Just be like me. 1 pair of shoes. And that's it. No, you can't. It's not fashionable. Okay. But that's, imagine.
For the next few years when you get married, right?
Yeah, keeping all this stuff. Okay? Every woman listening is saying, he's right. Darn. I can't say anything. But it's true. It's mama's true. Again, there are those, by the way, again, for those people who go against their national tendencies, they will have, like I would, a small closet. That's it. Yeah. But most women that I've known do not have that. They have, you leave a closet, it'll be filled. There's no closet that is left empty. I don't know how they do it, but that's what it is. Okay, but the point is that man, after that first set of clothes, he had to go through this whole thing to make clothes. Ben Zoma just wakes up, and again he says, "Vani and I, mashkim mosi kol elev to right kol umot shokto baot the petach beiti." Indeed, members of all the nations diligently come to my entrance, to my house. Vani mashkim mosi kol elev vanai, and I rise up early in the morning and find all of them before me. So what's he saying here? He says, read all nations. So Marsha explains that a single country cannot supply a person's every need. What one country lacks, the other one provides. So fine. Okay. And then Ben Zoma said another thing. He said, "Hu haya omer." He used to say, "Oreach tov mahu omer." What does a good guest say? Kama taracha ba'al habayit b'shvili. How much trouble did my host take for my sake? Kama basar hevi alafanai. How much meat he brought before me. Kama yayin hevi alafanai. How much wine did he bring before me? Kama galuska od hevi alafanai. How many rolls did he bring before me? V'chol masha tarach. And all the trouble that he took, lo tarach ela b'shvili. He only did it for me, for my sake. Of all oreach ra. But what's the bad guy say? What did the trouble this guy take from me? Pad achad achalte, I had 1 bread. Chatich achad achalte, I had 1 piece. Kos echad shatich, I had drank from 1 cup. Kol torach shetarach bala bayed zelo torach ele b'shvil ishtov hanav. Every trouble he took is only for his wife and his children. So in other words, it depends on how I walk into it. What's my statement? Am I positive or negative? So he explains a good guest and a bad guest receive the same service, yet they view it very differently. One stresses the host's effort, how much he brought before me, whereas the other focuses only on what he took, I ate. One mentions the types of food explicitly, meat, wine, and rolls, whereas the other merely alludes to them as bread, peas, and cup. One mentions the meat and wine first, while the other mentions them last. The Gemara in Arachin states that one should not praise his host, lest unscrupulous people take advantage of his generosity. However, that Gemara refers to one who shouts out praise in the street. It is permitted and even commendable to praise one's host in a private setting. Okay, but this is something, now why did the Gemara have to go through this, by the way? It's an interesting thing. A good guest and a bad guest. Let's go a little homiletically for a second. What happens is, in this world, many of us are given a beautiful role. In other words, we have houses, we have cars, we have Baruch Hashem, healthy children, and everything else. So what happens? Either I can say how wonderful Hashem is, because of all these things, I can start enumerating what Hashem has done for me, or somebody else who has the same sort of thing can look and say, Hashem could have done much more. This guy over there, he has $1 million. Why couldn't I get the $1 million? This guy I have a car, but he has a whatever the expensive cars are today. Okay, he has that car and I'm driving my jalopy. Come on, it all depends on how we view things. If I'm viewing it and thanking God, and by the way, let's say they're all the same, they're exact same. I drive a Lexus, you drive a Lexus. But my Lexus is blue and yours is blue. They're both the same. You know what the difference is? Because when I step into your car is clean and my car is dirty. Why is it, and by the way, I'm the only driver of my car and he's the only driver of his car. But my car is dirty and yours is not, so I'm jealous for that. And I said, why does my car have to be dirty? Because I'm a slob. Okay, but I don't want to recognize it as me. So I want to say, if God would have done this, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So it's really how we view life. And that's what Ben Zom is picking on. Well, are you a good guest who recognizes the good that you have? Or are you a bad guest in this world who only looks at the negative? That's how you have to look at that also. Okay? So al orech tov ma concerning a good guest, what does Scripture say? Zechor ki tazgi fa'alo asher shoru anashim. Remember, so that you will aggrandize His work that men will see. That men see. Al orech ra, and for the bad guest is concerning lechein yeruhu anashim. Therefore, people fear him. He does not see any of the wise-hearted. So, in Job, the verse exhorts people to recall those acts of God that are revealed to man, and they will thus be moved to extol those manifestations of His providence. Our Gemara understands the verse as instructing a guest to recall and praise the efforts of his host made on his behalf. Alternatively, our Gemara too interprets the verse as referring to Hashem's providence, insofar as one must recognize the role of God in providing His needs through the agency of other people. And for the wicked, according to its plain meaning, the verse refers to God and man as they view each other. Man can only be overwhelmed by awe, but God, looking upon man, even upon the wisest among us, will see nothing to impress him. Here, the verse is interpreted as speaking of a guest who fails to appreciate the efforts of his wise and benevolent host. Okay. So now it says, Ha'ish b'mei Shaul zakein ba'anashem. So it says that and the men in the days of Shaul were old, and he came with men. Amarav v'itema Rav Zavid v'itema Rav Oshia. So we have an argument as to who said this. You see, the Rav said it, some people say Rav Zavid said it, some people say Rav Yoshaya said it. And what is it? Who is this person, the man? Zeh Yishai Avi David. This is in reference to Yishai, the father of David. Sheyetzeh b'uchlusa, who went out with a multitude, v'nichnas b'uchlusa, and went in with a multitude, v'darash b'uchlusa, and lectured in Torah to a multitude. So, it's interesting because Yishai was a baker. but apparently he was a big baker. Okay? It says when Yishai went to and from the battlefield or study hall, he was accompanied by a large crowd. This is the Gemara's interpretation of the phrase Ba Hashem, he came with men. It's interesting because he's described as making cakes for his son. You don't get the impression that he's a rich man or anything else, but the Gemara is saying, sorry?
Or important.
Right, or important. You don't get that impression. But apparently from the Gemara we're seeing that he was very important. And he went with 600,000 people who were and lecturing in Torah. I mean, it's an amazing thing. So Amar Ula said, and it's not the first time I'm reading this Gemara. It's very interesting that when I have to teach the Gemara, I see more things than when I'm just learning a Gemara. So it's just more questions come up every time. It's just an amazing thing. Okay, that's the power of Torah. So Tanu Rabbana, rabbis learned in a Braita. Haroach Chochmei Yisrael Omer. If one sees the sage of Israel, he says, Baruch Shechalak Mechamato Mechachmato L'Reyav. Praise that you who apportioned of his wisdom to those who fear him. So he says, this blessing, Chalak, a portion, is supposed to Natan gave, which is used in a blessing recited upon seeing secular scholars. Torah scholars are described as those who fear him because fear of God is a necessary prerequisite for success in Torah study, as it says in Pirkei Avot. Then, let's say you would see Chachmei Ovdei Chachavim. Let's say you see a lot of people, the sages of the idolatrous nations. So you should say, praise are you who gave of his wisdom to his creatures. So he said, okay, this is also an important thing to note, that we're recognizing, the Torah is recognizing a reality, that amongst the non-Jewish nations, there are chachamim. You have Aristotle, even if they were wrong philosophically, there was still a lot of chachma to them. So there was actually somebody who was in Amherst, when I went to UMass Amherst, this person was in Amherst College. He had a professor that was brilliant. That's what he says. So he said when he saw that professor, it was Zocha to say this bracha. That, it gave chachma to his creations. He felt that the guy was that much on top of it, that he could say that. Okay. I mean, I don't know, I forget who it was. I know who said it, but it was amazing that he learned this bracha and said that fits him. Okay. So, Roa Malchei Yisrael Omer, if one sees the kings of Israel, he says, Baruch Shechalach Michvadol Riyav. Again, blessed are you who apportioned of his glory to those who fear him. Malchei Ovdei Chachavim Omer, if you see the kings of the idolatrous nations, Baruch Shantam Michvadol L'Riyotav. You should say praise who gave of his glory to his creatures. So he says, one makes this bracha upon seeing any ruler whose edicts cannot be altered by the king and who judges and metes out capital punishment lawfully. So you wouldn't say this, actually you may say this too about the president. He can't mete out capital punishment. He can only commute it, right? So, okay, for that. I just saw about Obama that he commuted over 1,000 people in his final days. So Amar Rav Yochanan said, the Olam Yishtadel Adam Larutz. A person should always exert himself and run L'krat Malchei Israel, to meet kings of Israel. V'lo L'krat Malchei Israel Levad, and not only to meet Jewish kings, Ella Filu L'krat Malchei Ovdei Chachavim, but also to run to meet even kings of idolatrous nations. She'im Yizke, because if he merits to enter the world to come, Yavchen Be Malchei Israel, the Malchei Ovdei Chachavim, he will then be able to discern between the glory of the kings of Israel, the Messianic king who will rule at that time, and the glory of the kings of idolatrous nations. Just let me finish this, and then you can ask the question. So he says, the world to come, to note the Rashi uses the term world to come to denote the entire future era in which the advent of the Mashiach will be followed by the resurrection of the dead. And then the person will then appreciate, who sees these two kings, he will then appreciate the great difference between the glory of those enjoying their reward in the world to come and the glory of the idolatrous nations in this world. Through witnessing the honor according to the kings in this world, he will have a basis for contrasting their glory with that of the Messianic king. This in turn will demonstrate to him the vast gulf between their respective peoples, for a king's glory reflects that of his subjects. Yeah.
Is it the kings of Israel? Is that the Davidic dynasty?
Yeah, but Davidic, it could be David, it could be on the other side too. It could be the northern kingdom.
Oh, okay.
So anytime you see the king with all the pomp and circumstance of the king.
Right, okay.
Okay?
But yeah, because I remember Israel is one king.
Yeah, but Israel would have two. After David, after Rehoboam, there would be two kings from that point on. The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So once you have the split of kingdom, you had multiple kings. So, but the point is, when you see either one of those kings, there was great respect for them. And again, also for the non-Jewish kings. That's why when the first marriage, Princess Diana, and now even with this last one, when the king from Prince Charles, Harry, whatever the name was, people want to stay up and watch all this pomp and circumstance because that's the glory that you give the king. Now these guys don't even really aren't kings anymore. I mean, they're kings in name only. They don't have any real power. Yeah. But it's an amazing.
That's interesting. Would you make the bracha upon meeting?
Probably
like
not.
the Queen of England.
Well, they want to. The Magen Avram wants to argue that it's only on a person whose edicts cannot be altered by the king.
Okay, they don't have the power.
They don't do that. So you probably would not make that bracha.
Life and death edicts,
right?
Yeah.
Where you would probably make that bracha is if you would see one of these sheiks in King. What's his name?
A program on television. I don't know. Was it history?
The Arab kings.
Yeah, some writer, some American Jewish writer, a religious guy apparently, went to interview some king of one of these smaller Arab countries. I don't know which one it was.
Right.
Not a well-known one. Apparently, this king was a nice guy in a small country. I read this. He said shortly after it was introduced to him and so forth, I asked him. I said, "It's our custom that we make a blessing over a true king," and the king agreed, and he made the blessing.
Like I said, the question is, does he have the power to kill? So if he does, then he's a king.
Yeah.
It's not just, like I said. That's why. If you would see either Obama, Trump, or they're right now they're the two guys. So if you would see either one of them, you probably would not make a bracha.
Don't we have a separate bracha for a president of a democracy, don't we?
No.
Is there something to say when you see a president of a country?
No.
I thought there was something.
I don't think there is.